SoftCover, ThePrint's online venture to launch select non-fiction books. Today is the digital launch of Balidan, Stories of India's Greatest Para-Special Forces Operatives by Swapnil Pandey, published by HarperCollins. I have the book right here, and let me unwrap it for our viewers. So this is Balidan, and the cover here is the insignia from the Special Forces. In today's conversation, we have with us the author of the book, Swapnil Pandey. Swapnil Pandey is an alumnus of the Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra. She has worked with organizations like Wipro and HDFC and taught at Lovely Professional University and the Army Public School. She writes a popular blog as well as articles for magazines and newspapers and appears on national TV as a panelist. Her books are aimed at creating awareness about the work and lives of Indian Army professionals and their family. These include The Force Behind the Forces, Love Story of a Commando, and Soldier's Girl. Welcome, ma'am, to SoftCover.
Thank you, Keshavji. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks a lot.
Ma'am, to begin with, let's go directly into discussing your book, ma'am. As the title mentions, Balidan is a book that delves into stories from the 21 Para-Special Forces, the 9 Para-Special Forces, and the 4 Para-Special Forces. Ma'am, what led you to write about the Para-Special Forces to begin with? And how did you go about collecting information about these legendary battalions?
This was collecting information was really difficult, let me tell you, because Para-Special Forces of Indian Army are most covert forces, you know. They are specialized forces. And just to reach them, to meet them, and to interview, to imagine I have interviewed more than 200 operatives and all. It was a Herculean task. Not just reaching them is difficult, to get clearances and it just an impossible task. Now that I look back, I find it so difficult. But God was kind. Few things aligned, and I could make it possible. And to write these stories, I think it's a matter of sheer honor, pride, and privilege for me to write. To come up with a book like Balidan. And what actually happened, Keshav, that I had written this book, Force Behind the Forces, in 2021. And this book again is a very it's one of its kind book. The book is basically based on war widows. But again, those were the stories of losses. So I sort of went into depression and stress. There was a lot of stress in my mind. To come out of that thing, I was looking for some exciting topics, some thrilling topics. So somehow Special Forces, because I think God wanted me to write on Special Forces, because Special Forces are the forces which inspire youth of this country like no other. Like we have heard about Navy SEALs, SAS. So this was supposed to come one day, today or tomorrow, or sooner or later. But this nation needed a book like this. We have so many movies on Navy SEALs. We know so much about SAS and how they function, but nothing much has been revealed on, we don't have like good quality literature on Para-Special Forces. Like we have plenty of stuff on social media and internet and YouTube, but nothing to read basically. So things worked out for me, and I just could, come up something as magnificent as Balidan. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And when you're talking about looking at the Special Force operatives, 5 of the 6 chapters of the book delves into the stories of these brave members. Colonel Santosh Mahadik, Brigadier Shekhawat of the 21 Para, Subedar Major Honorary Captain Mahindra Singh, Captain Tushar Mahajan, and Major Manish Singh from the 9 Para Special Forces. Ma'am, so how did you decide, to highlight the bravery of these individuals and the sacrifice of these individuals, and how did you go about collecting the information about these individual stories?
Keshav, as I said, again, it was a matter of great pride, privilege, and honor for me just to, just to meet them, fill you with a lot of josh and enthusiasm, because all of these names, these are legendary names. Some of them have sacrificed their lives for the nation in the most legendary manner, in the most legendary operation that this nation has ever seen. And some of them have served this nation all their life, and they have inspired the youngsters of this country in many ways. So if you, it just, there was, to collect, information, the book is basically based on the interviews taken with various, their friends, their family members, then the operatives themselves. And it has taken me, I have also visited the units to collect, that kind of, to meet their comrades. And it was such a, I would say, such a Herculean task for me, because these are special forces operatives we are talking about. Many of them would be in jungles, deployed in jungles, in deserts. Some of them were even posted abroad. Okay, so many a times what has happened to me, that I have received calls in the, 2 in the night or 3 in the night, that, okay, ma'am, now I am free, we can talk now. And because they are posted abroad, okay, so their time zone is clashing with mine, or they had been perhaps deployed in particular operation for months, and they have just got the chance to come back, and they have to leave soon. So for them, it would be a very normal thing calling me in the middle of the night and asking, okay, we can talk about it. So that was one part. Then I had to go through several layers of permissions and clearances, what has to be written, what can be written, what cannot be written, and how it has to be written, stuff like that. Then to visit the units, the legendary units itself was a one of its kind experience, because if we stop here, right here, the process of clearances and connecting with them, and the moment I enter their world, my life changes forever. They inspire you in many ways. They are such, there is a reason why they are called special. Special forces are special in every manner, be it their mental resilience, be it their devotion towards their duty, their, physical fitness. Then there's certain aura of spirituality also associated with them, I would say, that make them so resilient that they are able to take on to any challenges thrown upon them, be it the, the mountains, or deploy them to Siachen, drop them, allow them to jump from the, paratrooping. I have mentioned so many things, mountaineering to paratrooping, and to combat diving. There is a reason why these men can perform all those things along with performing their duties. They are, rightly said, men apart, every man an emperor. So this is how it is.
Ma'am, so now my next question is, so ma'am, in your book you describe, scenes of, for example, Brigadier Shekhawat's tandem jump, the first tandem jump done in the para-training school here in India. And you describe it very vividly with interesting facts on how it was done. So can you take us and the viewer through, the scenes of Brigadier Shekhawat doing these kind of jumps? Were you able to witness any of his jumps, any of his activities? How did you, how was it discussing with Brigadier Shekhawat sir with regards to his career in the Para Special Forces, ma'am?
I would say that just meeting him and listening to him, and witnessing everything which I have described in the book, had been an honor of my life, sheer honor. Like, I feel I should be extremely fortunate to have that kind of privilege, because he has this following of, millions and millions of youngsters follow him, and he's responsible. In fact, many of the operatives, for other stories with whom I connected later part, from the operatives from 9 para SF or 4 para SF or even the 21 or 10 para SF, because the comrades belong to different units. So I had been in touch. So the moment they will get to know, okay, I'm writing on Brigadier Shekhawat, they are like, why are you writing on us? You can write an entire book on him. So this is the kind of craze he holds, not just amongst us in the masses, but also within the special forces and Indian Army. So, and what I feel that it is so unfair to the youth of this country, Keshav, that we till now, before this book, we have only seen him as a soldier from Indian Army, from para special forces. But I feel he's David Goggins of India, or maybe David Goggins, very famous Navy SEAL operative is there, from USA. Is Brigadier Shekhawat of USA, I would say, because he's just not a legendary soldier who have participated in all the operations or served the nation with utmost devotion, but he's also a great mountaineer. He has summited 21 peaks, Mount Everest thrice, to imagine. And 2 peaks he had, when I was editing the books, he had summited 2 peaks in his 50s, to imagine. Then you name a single level of certification that is required in the field of skydiving, he does not have. He's been to Russia, he's been to USA, he's been to Spain, and God knows how many countries to learn the trick of the trade. Like, if we commemorate or facilitate, felicitate a lot of our sportsmen. We keep our sportsmen in good regard. So I feel he's one of the finest sports person that we have. Brigadier Saurabh Shekhawat is one of the finest personalities in the nation right now, because he's the one who has done, like, summited 22 mountains, Mount Everest thrice. Then he's a tandem master instructor, accelerated free fall instructor, examiner. I can't even pronounce all those certification that from the, but he has every single degree. He's like 1,500 jumps so far he has done, almost around, So he's an excellent para. He would be one of the finest, the best paratroopers in the country. One among the finest skydivers that we currently have in India. Then one of the finest mountaineers in this country that we have. Like, I have no data how many of the serving officers or even the civilians have conquered 22 peaks by now. He would be the few among them. So to meet him, to get to talk to him, to get a peek into his life, which now everyone, like mostly the youngster, will get a peek in his life, was an absolute honor of my life. And yes, I witnessed it all, and I have spent quite some time with him. So it's an extraordinary, out of the world experience, I would say. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. And going through each of these individual stories, right? I had a question on sort of Colonel Mahadik and his story. Specifically, you've been able to delve into individual operations that he was part of, and how those operations were run, including the final one in Kupawara. So my question to you, ma'am, was, what? So it's a twofold question, ma'am. First, how are you able to get the information to recreate each of his operations that you've sort of gone into? And then the second, ma'am, what is your sort of understanding from Colonel Mahadik's story? Because it's a very interesting story. So for you to have heard from his batchmates, his people he worked with and lived with, and the story of his wife, who's also now joined the army. Like, can you just take us and the viewers through Colonel Mahadik's story from your point of view, ma'am?
I would have had interviewed around 40, at least, people from his world, friends, family, comrades from different units, to create Colonel Santosh Mahadik Sena Medal and Shaurya Chakra posthumously stories, and to to talk to his comrades who are filled with so many beautiful fond memories, like one of the Captain Dhamankar, I would say. He sort of he was the one who has trained under Colonel Mahade. He had his own stories to share. Then there is this Colonel Valvalkar. They have now left the army, so I can mention their names and all. So he was the one who had carried him during his last journey. He was the one who took him to the hospital from Kashmir Valley. So he had again, and they had been brother in arms. Like they had joined army together. They have joined para SF together, and so he has again his own share of grief, good memories to share with me. Then his wife, the most beautiful memories which I personally felt was of Captain Swati Mahadik, his wife, because she told me about all the sweet little things between couple. There was like how Colonel, whenever she'll get angry, she mentioned that Colonel Santosh Mahadik would sing to her, "Dhadkan zara ruk gayi hai" from Pahar, "Dhadkan zara ruk gayi hai," and he'll just charm her like anything. Then then his seniors who knew her. Then his brother Tatya Mahadik, Tatya Bhaiya. He mentioned about his childhood memories. How brave he was since his childhood. And then he also mentioned that how deep Colonel Mahadik was into Operation Sadbhavna when he was commanding the 41 RR battalion in Kashmir. So he even mentioned how when Tatya Bhaiya was there to visit his unit and all, to visit Kashmir basically. So there was this surrendered militant who Colonel Mahadik has deployed as a guide to his own family. So they were like a little scared. Okay, the surrendered militant, how could you do this? So the Colonel Mahadik was that sort of person. He said the change has to begin from the house itself. So that was the kind of conviction in his heart for the people of Kashmir. So that was Colonel Santosh Mahadik. Then again, the last operation in which he made the supreme sacrifice, it is one of its kind operation. That was an ongoing operation which was going on since many days. And Colonel Santosh Mahadik was the commanding officer. Usually commanding officers have so much of load, to manage the logistic, to coordinate amongst the various squads is as a difficult job, they are laden with workload. But he was that soldier who always liked to lead from the front. Many of his comrades mentioned that no matter what rank, he always liked to walk ahead of the scouts. Like scouts are the revered figure in a unit. They are the one who walk ahead of everyone, gather the information and pass it on. So they are also, of course, exposed to much of the danger. The first bullets will hit them, of course. But Colonel Santosh Mahadik, even as a commanding officer, he liked to lead from the front, and he died like a soldier. He died with a bullet in his heart. That's I feel is the most glorious way for any soldier to make supreme sacrifice for, or to give his life away in the line of duty. So that's his persona, and I feel really fortunate to compile his life story, which will now go to the youngsters for them to read and get inspired of.
Right. And continuing on the trend, ma'am, I wanted to talk to you about the Major Manish Singh from the 9 Para Special Forces, because both in this story with on Major Manish Singh as well as Colonel Mahadik's story, the things that were fascinating were how you were able to talk to their partners and also bring out the story between the two. From Colonel Mahadik falling in love when he refused. He said, "I will reject this girl," and then falling in love to Major Manish Singh and Mrs. Asta Panwar. So coming to Major Manish Singh and this bit, as well as Colonel Mahadik, what sort of brought you to bring these stories out as well, them as persons and individuals and not just brave soldiers. So, what incentive or what was your motivation behind this? And also explain a little bit about, Major Manish Singh's love story that you describe in the book, ma'am.
I am an army wife myself. It's been 15 years for me in this fraternity. So, and I have just written a book like Force Behind the Forces. So, that's my forte, because I am the one, I am one amongst millions of women behind our forces. So that comes as a natural, because books are authors' individual voices. You write who you are. So I am basically writing about my world. I cannot write about IITs or IIM or even AIMS as a matter of fact, because I know nothing about that world. But again, when I write about army, that's my world. These are my neighbors, my people, my friends. So of course, these women, all of them are me and I am them, and we are, so that comes very naturally to my writing, to my books, writing about the women, because I know the kind of sacrifice. If you talk about the women behind special forces, many of them, if I talk about like Brigadier Shekhawat's story, Renuka ma'am and them had hardly been together, because if not in the operation, as Renuka ma'am mentioned to me, that if not in the operation, he's either climbing the mountains, or he's doing this paratrooping thing, or he's abroad on UN missions. So in their marital life of around 26 years by now, they have hardly been together. So, and she was the one, behind taking care of the children and everything. It's been her support that he is where he is today. And the same again, the captain Swati Mahadik you mentioned. To imagine, she is a highly qualified woman, and what kind of women, just to carry forward the legacy of her husband, she goes through that the process of entire SSB, completes her army training, because it is not easy. And again, for a mother, I am also a mother of 2 children. Her children were really, really small when this particular incident happened, when Colonel Mahadik made the supreme sacrifice. To imagine the courage of Captain Swati Mahadik, that she leaves behind the children and adorns the uniform to, carry forward the legacy that Colonel Santosh Mahadik had left behind. She is the one, the onus is on her shoulder. To imagine. So these are the kind of women I want our girls of India, women of India, to be inspired of, because we are living in an era where we also have a lot of disruptive, narratives, where living partners are chopping each other. Love has lost its meaning because the kind of news we keep on hearing about. Then I am here bringing forward these kind of stories, which, because these are true stories, these kind of stories will, will make people believe in the idea of love again, in societies, in families, in the, in the beauty of true love and selflessness. This love story of a commando, story of Major Manish Singh and Mrs. Astha Panwar, is again that kind of story. To imagine Mrs. Astha Panwar, sweet, simple, and so pretty. She falls in love with Major Manish Singh just after reading the newspaper. Keshav, she read the newspaper about this, paraplegic commando from 9 para officer who is permanently wheelchair bound. She knows this fact, and she falls in love with him because he serves the nation, or it is something very divine. And they go through like a lot of turbulence had happened in their life to get married, because of course no parent, like Astha's respect is one thing, but Astha's with the girl's parent, it also requires a lot of courage, no? Because the partner is going to be permanently wheelchair bound. So there had been a lot of turbulence, but the love is so solid, the relationship is so solid, the selflessness is so solid. And I would again say the beauty and epitome of being an Indian woman, like Indian women had been famous for these kind of things, had been so immense that they get married and live happily ever after. You tell me, and these are true stories. These are again different narrative, the kind of narratives which we keep on hearing about love, family, societies, and stuff. Here is also one narrative I'm giving to people of India. So,
yeah. And my last question, and since you told me your motivation and your, you being part of an army spouse and your motivation to write about these stories in your voice. For someone who's not from an army background, ma'am, who wants to write about army stories, who wants to write about these things, what would be your advice to them?
See, such a beautiful question, Keshav, because yes, we are living in an era where patriotism and nationalism are basic requirement to survive. Because look at the countries like Afghanistan and the manner it disintegrated because the soldiers ran away. Now look at Ukraine; they are still surviving. You know, so to have that kind of patriotism and love for your country is basic for youth and especially youngsters who are going to hold and secure the future of a country is very, very important. So this is the time when our generation, the best that our generation can do for the future generations to come is to inculcate them with right values, right? Like we have been, when I was a child, my mother would tell me about Jhansi Ki Rani. We have heard, Prithviraj Chauhan. We have heard about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. We have grown listening to these stories. Now, when we are talking about Gen Z, children of internet era, you know, so we need to give them the kind of heroes they require. And this book, Balidan, is an attempt to do that. Because now when they'll get to read about all these adventures of, para special forces in the field of mountaineering, or be it their thrilling operations where they have, um, uh, served the mother nation in most magnificent manner, these children, they would imbibe their values. When I was interviewing these para special forces operative, the younger one, the captains one, or they mentioned that how many of them have joined army because they heard the story of Captain Jasrotia or Colonel Santosh Mahade. That story inspired them to join para special forces. Now, when I'm giving so many such legendary names from such legendary battalions, I hope that many more youngsters would imbibe these values of nationalism and patriotism in their heart. And for that, and yes, when I started writing on army, like I have been a defense author, nobody else was writing. Like there was one, two author along with me, my contemporaries, who were writing on army, but nobody else. But today I see that many have picked up writing. They're writing good books because the books on army or defense have some purpose. Our books are just not normal romance or horror books for created just for entertainment purpose, but our books have deep purpose. We are inculcating the values of patriotism to our youngsters, to our young children, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and we are giving heroes. We don't, why follow Captain America? Why give the posters of Hulk to our children? Why not give posters of Mahindra Saab or Major Manish Singh or Brigadier Sergeant Shekhawat or Colonel Mahade? Give their posters to be kept in their room, and grow your children that way. So that's the deep purpose. And if somebody has to write, again, it's a very, very difficult process, because everything, when you're writing about national security or on army or defense, you have to be very, very responsible about your writing. So there are several channels of clearances, where you apply for clearance, where you state your purpose, where you tell them about that. This is what and because it's been like 8 years for me writing, so everybody now knows what I'm doing, how I'm doing, and I also know how I'm doing. So I'm doing. But if anybody wants to write again, so they have to contact Indian Army that they want to write on these particular heroes, and then they can start writing. They guide you. The army guides you. And then you should also have the consent of that particular person's family or kin, if in case he has made made the supreme sacrifice. So that's how you start, and then their friends and family, they start getting you connected with different people who had played important part in that particular person's life. So that's how the chain is completed. And then again, working with best of publishers, I would say I've been very, very fortunate. I have worked with Penguin, I have worked with Westland, now the HarperCollins India. I really wanted to work with HarperCollins India, and Swati Chopra is my editor, and it's such an honor to work with her. So they create all the magic with the stories, with their editorial skills. So having legendary publishers, the best in the world, also have its own perk. Then they have great distribution channels, so your books goes to different almost everywhere. So this is how you write a book. Writing a book, Keshav, is not an easy job, I would tell you. I am also involved in, the movie making stuff is also going on, but I still feel that writing a book is still difficult.
Yes, ma'am.
Getting it published is even tougher.
Yes, ma'am. Right, ma'am, that was my last question. And thank you so much for joining us. Once again, Balidan, Stories of India's Greatest Paraspecial Forces Operatives is out now. Grab your copy to delve into truly marvelous stories of India's Paraspecial Force Operatives. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you, Keshav.